Namaste. Welcome. Let's start with a consecration of this satsang about Shambhala realm. Please close your eyes. Keep your back straight. Relaxation. We bring the awareness in the middle of the chest, slightly to the right, a little to the right. The feeling of reconnecting ourselves with the depth of our being. We consecrate this satsang to God, the spiritual heart, the supreme reality, of which Shambhala is a symbolic and archetypal expression. Keeping the awareness of the heart, the openness to the realm of Shambhala, the purity of our intention, aspiration. We gently open the eyes. So we will continue our exploration to the sacred realm of Shambhala. In the last two satsangs, we started speaking about Tulshuk Lingpa, the story of him, that journey in opening a Beyul, a sacred realm, which exists even in the physical plan, in the physical domain, which represents like a projection of Shambhala in the physical realm. And along with that exploration, of course, we had many elements related to the tantric tradition and the way in which such a communion with Shambhala is possible. We finished the previous satsang speaking about that transformation that happened in the village of Ling when the leprosy was making so many souls suffering, and that place was like a haunted place avoided by everybody, and how with his compassion, so the compassion is the essential element. No, we should emphasize this. So through his compassion, he was able to, and of course with his tantric teachings and knowledge, he was able to get rid of that. So that miracle was possible, and many people confessed about that. So we will continue his story about Shambhala, inspired from this text of Step Away from Paradise, the life of Tulshuk Lingpa. You remember last time we spoke about Vajrakilaya, those dorje, or that more specific dagger which can purify and bring this bodhicitta, the illuminating consciousness in human beings. This is the place, Sri Moling Monastery, which was offered to him after he made that healing in the village. So they offered, and you remember I said that some of them simply signed, they couldn't have fingers to put their imprint there, and then they used the toes or something else just to express the gratitude. They offered this monastery. But this place was quite harsh, and he had to spend his winters in a different place, passing every year through this Rohtang, the plain of corpses is the name, because of so many people dying in that area. So very risky pass between Hulu Valley, very much related to the spiritual realm of Shambhala. Nicholas Roerich in his books also speaks about it, and Lahaul. So in winter, he simply went in this cave. So his place for winters, Pangao Cave, living there with his wife and with 2 children. And it was basically men who offered to build a little bit around and flatten the floor. And this is the place where he would live in the winter. The author of the book, going through that place, said that it's a place very dangerous, a wild place with eagles, snakes, dangerous 10-minute walk along the razor-thin trail below the village of Pangao. So basically the cave was in the cliff, and the author said, I couldn't help but smile at the sheer divinely inspired madness of the man who would move this young family to such a place. Anyway, these 2 places, this area and Shimoling, where the monastery is, became places of pilgrimage for many people. Some became the disciples of Tulshuk Lingpa. Others just came and visited him there, and it was a place where miracles happened, as I said, and it was a place of sacredness. One of those who visited these places is Chatru Rinpoche, which is known as one of the greatest yogis, Tibetan yogis. He lived more than 100 years, and it was in 1968 that Thomas Merton, maybe you heard about this great American Trappist monk, who met him, and after meeting him, he said that is the greatest man I have ever met. That's my teacher. Of course, Thomas Merton, coming from Christianity, he could say, well, my path is better, just praying to Jesus, we have better methods or so. But he had that humbleness and also that power to see that this man is the greatest man he ever saw, he ever met. It was a very special relationship between this Chatrun Rinpoche and Tulshuk Lingpa. Actually, Chatru Rinpoche married his daughter, the daughter of Tulshuk Lingpa, Kamala. And there is another book about a journey into another Beyul, which was guided, that journey was guided by Chatru Rinpoche. So behind that, the spiritual teachings related to what happened there, it's a book which has a foreword by Dalai Lama, and also it's a fascinating journey. Definitely what we are speaking about Tulshuk Lingpa is even more catching the spirit of the tantric tradition, but that is also very, very unique. And Chatru Rinpoche, for example, put that man who was looking for such a Beyul to meditate in caves for many months, and maybe we will have time to speak more about that. So this is where he was living for a while, and he continued to heal people, to help others. But in the story, the son of Tulshuk Lingpa, Kunsang, comes with a very interesting statement. Up to this point, there was nothing unusual about my father. So all those special things we learned about this were not something special. From now on, the miracles would come. Because the explanation is because few among Tertons, these discoverers of the Dharma treasures, spiritual treasures, have the destiny to open a Beyul, to open a place in which people can find inspiration and grace. So as conditions worsen in those times, the time for opening such a Beyul becomes more possible. And again, in this synchronicity, just as when a flower is in need of pollination, the bees come, so it is that when there is nowhere else to run, conditions arrive for a Beyul opening. It was for such times that Padmasambhava prepared such hidden, spacious, special places. Of course, such revelation comes by doing some preparatory practices. So Tulshuk Lingpa started with sadhana, with meditations, spiritual sadhana, so spiritual practice with rituals, calling the grace. Somehow, like we are doing now, for those who know, we started yesterday, invocation of Tara for the peace of the world with some mantra recitations. So pretty much it is setting the purity of intention and an aspiration in this. Making offerings to the Dakini so that the Beyul would be revealed. Sometimes I observe that there is this tendency to consider that this tantric, especially Tibetan Buddhist tantric tradition, is completely abstract or has so many details in the ritualistic way that it will be inaccessible to us. It is not so. Because exactly as in a prayer to Tara, you may feel connection with that. In spite of the fact that you didn't maybe know about the whole aspects of Tara and all this connection is totally possible. Beyond technicalities, the purity of intention is essential. And this connection with the subtle realms can happen and is happening. And I already confessed that there were such connections with Shambhala, and at the time they started, there was no knowledge about such rituals. It was just an aspiration and that yantra and then meditating, and that was all that created a whole connection. Also, it's important, he didn't ask that he will be the one who will open. He just wanted that, or asked for a Beyul to be opened. Not even this Beyul de Moshong, not even this, but any kind of place for being a support for other human beings. To have a refuge, especially for Tibetans. Then a revelation came for him. So after times of prayer and invoking, then something happened and a revelation came. Tulshuk Lingpa had a vision which happened neither in his sleep nor in the wakefulness consciousness. So at that transition, which in the yogic tradition is associated with the Turiya state, the fourth state of consciousness, when we drop the limited conscious mind, but we are still aware and present, a vision appeared to him. Khandro Yeshe Tsogyal. Khandro is the Tibetan name for a Dakini, or for a spiritual inspiring goddess. We will speak a little bit more about this. The consort of Padma Shambhava. Actually, Yeshe Tsogyal is considered the mother of Buddhism in Tibet, and the most important Dakini. Many women are seen as the reincarnation of Yeshe Tsogyal when they are carrying this wisdom and compassion. So Yeshe Tsogyal appeared to Tulshuk Lingpa and spoke to him sternly. Listen to every word I say and do not miss a single detail. Tibet is being overrun and those who aren't slaughtered have nowhere to go. The time is coming for the opening of the Beyul in Sikkim. You have work to do and you must do this work carefully. You will be the one to open it. So imagine what happens when, in a meditation and when this aspiration and all the purity of intention related to that, brings as an echo such revelation. Related to this transition between wakefulness and dream, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition and in general in spirituality, this is like a portal to ultimate reality. Yeshe Tsogyal a representation. You see that dagger or purba in her left hand. Again, that tool for tremendous transformation, carrying the revelations. Another image of Yeshe Tsogyal. So for the Tantric Buddhism tradition, this distinction between wakefulness and sleep is not so radical that we tend to have. That's why they approach, sometimes in the Tibetan yoga of dreams, it's even a practice. Actually, it's an essential practice to visualize the daily life. In the daily life, when you wake up, to see the daily life, the wakefulness state, as a continuation of dream, and all the people that you'll meet as dakas and dakinis, so these celestial entities, and your connection with Vajrayogini, with the main deity that is the main wisdom deity, that is the very inspiration of this yoga of sleep in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. It is based on some statements Buddha himself made, like the variety of things is like a hair net, a mock show, a dream. We often find, even in Vijnana Bhairava, in many texts, seeing the world like a dream. And then in the vow of Mahamudra by the third Karma Paranjang Dorje in the 14th century, he has this: observing outer objects, I find but my own mind. Observing outer objects, I find by my own mind. There is a similar quote from Ramana Maharshi, in which he basically said that the ultimate consciousness is the source of thoughts, and the universe is nothing but the thoughts, and ultimately the universe is our self. In this vision, Yeshe Tsogyal described the path to the Beyul with many details, the way to this hidden valley, that he has to go to a particular valley to turn up to the left, and then particular landmark, and to perform some rituals for connecting with the entities and deities of that place, appeasing the spirit owners, and so on. She repeated these landmarks and asked him not to forget all this. And then she also said that in the future I will come to your dreams and will keep reminding you, we have a tremendous work. We have a tremendous work. This kind of intuitions, I still like to keep them not so far or abstract or inaccessible. As I confessed a little bit before, the whole retreats that we are doing here are inspired from the retreats I used to do in caves, but the first impulse to go in a cave was coming from these communications with Shambhala. Before even thinking about Shambhala, it came to me that aspiration to meditate, sometime to meditate in a cave, but it was just a kind of dream to go in a place to meditate where such a cave would be, and so on. And then it was in a meditation with Shambhala that a vision appeared. I didn't know that cave I was going to go. So it was, I saw the mountain, and then it was like a very, very narrow animal track, and then how to go, and then going up. And I simply follow that. And this is how I arrived for the first time in that cave when I started meditating. It was a 3-day meditation retreat, and it was the same. I went through, it was a very narrow entrance at a certain point, and then a big space was opened. I was somehow prepared to go outside, but at least at less than half an hour from coming there, 2 people, a monk and somebody, came, and simply they were speaking between them. I didn't speak with them, but they are speaking, and said that there is a spring healing with waters that are making miracles and healing waters in the back of the cave, so that I knew that there is a water there, a source of water, and I don't need to go out of the cave to take water. And from that moment, nobody entered. And some visions came, especially like a tunnel was opened, and then some visions appeared. Later on, after 1 day or so, I went out to write all this. And when I came back, it was this, you forgot. And it was exactly the same kind of elevation. It was like in a well, and I felt that some beings were up there just starting looking, and then it's like the water becomes more clear when there are no waves, and then a sense of elevation. And then I was taken in the same places where I forgot about, no? So was this kind of connections keeps repeating, or some such intimate connections can come. It's just about trying to be open to them. It's not something impossible or abstract. Also, Tulshuk Lingpa had visions about the time when Padmasambhava hid such a special text with revelations. And there is a terma, so a revelation, that a book revelation, in which he speaks about all this. So in the great secret talk of the Dakini showing the way to Demo Shong, so a guidebook to Beyul, the story goes that some great beings bowed down before Padmasambhava, offered some mandala, and then asked for support in times of difficulty. So it was like, advise us and give us clear prophecy. And then the great guru said, again, I would invite you to just, like, it's like we are in the presence of such divine beings, and it's like, yes, we are in a satsang, it's just about a book, but it's somehow that is addressing to us. That somehow this, if comes to us, is not just random, and it's like this echoes in our hearts. So this is, as I said, speaking about this, I do want to share the way I see the world. And this is how I see the world. And this is how I refer to that. So if I see this statement of Padmasambhava, listen, all of you bright attendants, it's just, I'm there. No? So try to have this. And he continued, what I have to tell you is meant to protect all the sentient beings of the future. At the twilight of time, have no doubt that the infinite meaning of the tear will burst out. At the end of the bad times, the whole world will be the subjects of black devils of lust, hatred, and illusion. The good customs will perish and everyone will practice evil deeds. And then he continued, the Tibetans, by the power of their own bad karma, so everything is still a consequence of some energies and forces will be scattered throughout all distinct districts and countries. The text continues speaking about the difficulties that the Tibetan people would continue to have. It says, for example, that evil people will especially hate the practitioners of the spiritual path. Those who follow the wrong path will be appreciated by everybody. So this is very much the expression of a decadence, which many spoke. René Guénon or Mircea Eliade, so many spoke about a decadence which we may experience in our times. But Padmasambhava continued, how pitiful the suffering of beings when those bad times arise. The precious hidden place will be in Sikkim. It will be the place to protect and save all. Abandon having two minds, so abandon having doubts about going to the abode of such a great secret tantric master, Padmasambhava. So it's like a place offered to us, given to us. So this is the ancient prophecy concerning the hidden land of Beyul Demoshong, which Tulshuk Lingpa revealed. Now, the critical present conditions, it's a general topic in all the guides to Shambhala. So I mentioned about this journey of Tulshuk Lingpa, but of course there are many texts that speak about such journeys, and especially about journey to Shambhala. And in the classical Buddhist canon of texts, there are Tibetan Buddhist of texts, there are some clear guides to Shambhala describing many aspects related to this journey. And I hope during this satsang we'll have time to speak about that. We'll come to that point as well. But now, just some ideas about the conditions that are needed for such an openness. Of course, when we speak about Shambhala just as an ideal realm, symbolic representation of the spiritual heart, as you remember, we spoke a lot in the first satsangs. This is something, but the whole description of this goes on different levels. In this synchronicity, in this network which Tantra is waving of the universe, there are many ways of understanding and interpreting things. And yes, Shambhala is in your heart is one of them, but the possibility of such a place, the openness of such a place physically, is something also that is in connection. Maybe not necessarily that you go physically, but what if so? So imagine what would be if a gateway would really open now and create the perfect conditions for spiritual practice. Because this is, and it's very clear in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, this is not just about, it's a war, or, we are suffering and let's go to a place where it's just, honey and we don't have to work and we are just lazy there. No, this place is a place in which the conditions for spiritual practice are possible. So, perfect conditions to practice, to dedicate ourselves to a spiritual journey. So, not necessarily that our level of consciousness automatically changes, but is like all the limiting distractions that tend to exist in our world are taken away. So it's like out of compassion, creating the best conditions. You remember we spoke about those realms of opportunity which a bodhisattva would create. A realm of opportunity is like also, creating a place where people can practice meditation and so on the physical level. But then while the vibration of consciousness elevates, that is not just a physical realm, but is also about so many other aspects. And then we can speak about such a journey to Shambhala. So imagine that such a possibility will be there. Imagine that you would be invited to embark in such a journey, but not necessarily taking your friends or your lover or your parents, definitely giving up all the possessions and achievements you got here. Would you go? There is a madness in this aspiration, in this spiritual aspiration, and there is an uncharted territory. You don't really know how and what is there. So you don't know physically, psychologically, spiritually. It's like in the Christian tradition, that cloud of unknowing. You just penetrate that. And still, in spite of that not knowing, many people had that divine madness to give up everything, any attachment. This is the story of Buddha, yes? He was a prince, he had all the conditions, and still something was missing. Yes, the story goes like indeed he realized the death, the suffering, the diseases, and so on, but the old age. But these are still symbolic, because it was not just that he saw that person and then suddenly he wanted to conquer death in a kind of physical way. It was an inner longing. So realizing that the quality of illusion that such a life, such a bourgeois or king-like life would involve. And that is not enough. So that longing. That's why these conditions that are needed are not referring only to some bad external conditions and then you go to somewhere where it's easier, but it's mainly about this longing for God, for the ultimate. So this is what Buddha did. This is what Mirabai did. Mirabai was also a princess in the area of Rajasthan, and she gave up everything for the love of Krishna. This is how Janaka, being a king, still wanted to realize that, wanting to know what this world is. He realized that somehow it's like a dream. It's not totally real. This is what Bhishma did in Bhagavad Gita, renouncing his position of future king. Many such people had just expressed this willingness to drop a dream. In Tengyur is a canonical text of Tibetan Buddhism. There are two texts, many volumes, Khandro and Tengyur. Khandro is a collection of 108 volumes of the sayings of Buddha. According to the Tibetan Buddhists, this is the corpus of the sayings of Buddha, which are in Khandro. And then Tengyur is 225 volumes and is about commentaries related to that. So the canonical or the classical teachings of Buddha are comprises in this Khandro and Tengyur. So this is the authority, we can say, in the Mahayana Buddhism. And Shambhala is described in Tengyur. The description of the journey to Shambhala in Tengyur starts with a humble request for guidance to Shambhala in the future, when widespread delusion will make spiritual practice impossible in the outside world. The inner journey tells us that can begin only after we have become aware of the deluded nature of the surface consciousness. So at the symbolic level, or we can understand that, as I said, it's not just about some bad, very bad conditions, but it's mostly about an inner state of consciousness. It's only when you realize that somehow, I mean, for Buddha, even that life of a prince was not enough, no? So somehow you realize that those are not the proper conditions. And then the inner journey to Shambhala starts when that is coming. It's like you don't want to continue like this. It's a longing for something else, no? And until that time, the surface consciousness, so the rational mind, seems fairly reliable. We are happy, or everything makes sense, and so on. But when we start seeing the illusions that distort our awareness and limit the possibility to spiritual progress, we finally turn away from our reliance to the surface consciousness, just this rational mind, and begin to seek a way to awaken to deeper levels of consciousness, to the spiritual heart. And thus, we reach a point at which we realize the impossibility of further progress in our usual state of consciousness, or in our common ways of seeing life and common values. Now, also, regarding this, it's important to have to understand what would be the prerequisite conditions for and tests on this spiritual path. So according to Tengyur, again, to the teachings in Tengyur about Shambhala, as essential prerequisites, the aspirant needs, and I would say this is the most important, to develop the noble aim of attaining enlightenment for the benefit of others. So that compassion and that pure motivation. Then also, the text speaks about possessing a clear mind, open heart and understanding, and a truthful nature, in order to follow this path and distinguish it from the delusional tendencies. To have faith in the heart based on direct intuitive knowledge and insight, not on the weak sentiments of wishful thinking. And to have the power and vision that come from the practice of meditation. Actually, these are the teachings in Tengyur quoted from a discourse in the name of Buddha, in the name of Avalokiteshvara, or Buddha, Kenrezi, the Buddha of compassion. So all these teachings and all these prerequisites are in Tengyur seen as the affirmations of Avalokiteshvara. Compassion, the noble aspiration for the benefit of all human beings, and then this purification coming from the practice of meditation, truthful nature, clear mind, understanding, and that faith in the heart. So this is what happened also to Tulshuk Lingpa, no? And after that vision, everything changed for him. So while before, of course, he was a great tantric and many miracles happened in his life, now it's like a change of destiny. From now, he had the calling. His life is about this. It's about opening the Beyul. So everything changed for him. So then a focus was completely on the discovering the Beyul. So from that time, he started speaking about Beyul, describing it, telling his disciples that one day they would go to the valley hidden in Sikkim and they would never return. And he spoke about its natural beauty, about waterfalls, pools of nectar, and so on. But always he said the time isn't proper, the time isn't right now. Some thought he was just crazy. Some understood the importance of timing, but even those in time grew impatient. When this will happen? When this will happen? So years he would say the time is not there. And as we will see in the story, this karmic capacity to open such a place or to open to access together depends on the karma of all those who are involved there. So that's why it was a need for preparation and proper state of spirit for all of them. Now, what in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition would mean to open a Beyul? What spiritually means to open the Beyul? What are the conditions? Of course, this is a land that is not on a physical map. We don't have latitude, longitude. It's not with such coordinates there. It simply needs to be open. And in order to open it, some conditions needs to be fulfilled. And the first one is to have the right terton, the right treasure discovering, the right bodhisattva or the right spiritual being able to do this. Who has the faith to do this, the one who had planted in the unchanging level of his consciousness in the heart the key of this opening. If you remember in the previous satsangs, I mentioned about the way in which such a spiritual treasure is revealed and is going beyond just the conditioning of the mind. Because if that secret will be hidden at the subconscious level or so, in a realm where it can be still tainted, then the purity of those teachings could be affected by the human interactions of that person. That's why Padmasambhava said, hid them very deep, very deep. So in that pure level of consciousness, we spoke a little bit about that creativity of the heart, referring even to Ibn Arabi. And from that pure spanda, sacred tremor of the heart, from there the vision and the understanding of such a beautiful place would blossom. So about Terton, who has in his faith, in his deeper levels of consciousness, this calling for discovering. The other important element is the timing. Such a Lama must make the attempt at the proper time. So even if the right Lama doesn't guess the time properly, then he will meet many obstacles. Then other conditions are help from the spirit world. So Tertons must communicate with and appease through ritual the spirit owners of the land and the local deities. And then the fourth a good connection with the Dakinis, with these Khandros, these celestial deities, who appear in their dreams and visions. Khandros also can take human form and become the terton spiritual as well as physical consort, a sort of spiritual bride. Now, before going further, related to that help from the spirit world, again, things may seem very abstract, and I wouldn't let this so. It's not that we don't know what this means. Maybe you went in some places where you would feel welcomed in nature, feeling welcome, or in some places when it was like a heaviness or a contraction or a sense that you are not welcome. So this is all that is about, especially when you stay longer. Even for those who did the 49-day retreat in Ambarina, or even now in the mountains, some forms of interaction, hearing some voices, or some forms of interactions with some spirits or entities that would be in those areas appear. But it becomes even more obvious if you go by yourself in a completely remote place. And if you'll stay there, you may start feeling such a connection with a place, and then you may feel the inspiration, or you may feel that some places are welcoming, some not so much. So this is what I'm speaking about. Maybe we'll have time more to elaborate later. So, and apart from that is the connection with a Dakini, with a Khandro. Again, this is a very tantric approach. So, for certain spiritual tasks, especially such important tasks, a terton needs to have a consort, a celestial, a goddess-like woman, or a celestial feminine deity who will support him. So a Dakini provides the link between the conscious mind and the deepest strata of the spiritual realms, inside and outside, no? Acting as an intermediary and guide for that. So to open a Beyul, a Khandro must be, so a Dakini must be with a terton. This appears also in the tantric Hinduism. For example, many tantric masters would have a person who would enter easily in state of trance and then communicate with this. A Dakini is more than just a medium with such forces. While yes, they perform this, the Dakinis are always conscious mediums. So they are not just, they are having a spiritual maturity and a spiritual practice behind. I saw in India some tantric masters who just use women for inducing a state of trance or hypnotic state to that woman, and then she would communicate with those realms, but it was not a very healthy or a very harmonious way of approaching. It is only when the woman as well has a profound spiritual background that that connection can go and flow in a very profound way. In general, we know that women are much more open to subtle realms, and this clear vision is possible, and many clairvoyants are women. It's exactly about this, or a part of this. Now, about these Khandros, about these Dakinis, this Dakini is a link between the Lingpa, the Terton, this discoverer, and the hidden realms. The Dakini etymologically means space traveler or sky goer, are enlightened yoginis or female counterparts of male Heruka deities or Daka and Dakini. And also, this metaphorical term space traveler means one who is immersed, a traveler, in the realization of emptiness. This space is just the expression of emptiness, or we can say the infinite space of pure consciousness, beyond any form or expressions. And then to dance in this freedom of consciousness is to be a Dakini. So to have that spacious realization of consciousness, that would be what a Dakini, even etymologically, means. And we have a modern translation, Dakini, one who delights or dances in the experience of emptiness, in the sky of emptiness. And we have many such representations of Dakinis. Nancy, you see it's like a dragon, this kind of cloud on which she is flying. This is one of the classical representations of such Dakinis. Now, this principle of discovering something in a couple, creating this sense of an androgyne, exists also in alchemy. So both in Western and in Indian alchemy, this union between masculine and feminine and harmony is very much present. So the alchemical work is done by a man and a woman together, and then the communion with Mercury, the communion with the whole divine realm will happen in this way. We have even the personification of alchemy. This is one of such symbolic expressions, is related to such a woman who reveals the truth, or who reveals. There are many cases. Nicholas Flamel with his partner and many great alchemists were doing the work both inside and outside. So the gold was just a metaphorical expression of this spiritual gold of the heart. But this revelation is possible only when this common work in a couple like this is happening. Here in this image, we have, you see, the celestial fluid coming from her breast, from the alchemy breast. So the continuous discharge of grace. And then her eyes are sun and moon. She has 3 stars on the forehead. And then she has a chameleon and a parrot in her hands. The chameleon is an interesting symbol because the chameleon is, it takes all the colors. And because of this was in many traditions associated with the rainbow. And the rainbow is a messenger between the earth and the sky, exactly as a Dakini is. No? Many times Dakinis are represented as having a rainbow body, or being on a rainbow as an intermediary. So this is what we are looking for, that communication with the subtle realms. So this is what the chameleon would be, the one who opens this path between earth and heaven, the rainbow. It's this go-between, like a Dakini, chameleon is playing this role. And then the parrot is also the symbol of the soul. And for example, in the Sufi book the conference of the birds, the parrot was the one who was in search and discovering the water of immortality. The water of immortality, again, the symbol of the ultimate, exactly as Jesus speaks about offering that water. If you drink, you'll never be thirsty anymore. So again, such Dakinis, like flying Dakinis, like rainbows. In one of his revelations, Tulshuk Lingpa, going to what he named the cave, the secret cave of Dakini. So he went to such special cave, and there he had a vision, an encounter with a Dakini. And he said, she touched my lips to the nipples of her two breasts 3 times and declared that I had then fully obtained the blessings, initiation, and transmission of the 3 Buddha bodies of the Khandro, of the Dakini. So the physical, subtle, and causal body of a Dakini integrated. And then he said, showering me with absolute love, she vanished into space. I woke up from my dream in perfect joy. This is how he would describe this. Another image of Yeshe Tsogyal, this known as Wisdom Dakini. And there are many other Dakinis in the history of Tibetan Buddhism, one which is considered a queen of the Khandros. She left the physical body quite recently. She was sometimes, many great Buddhist lamas honored her and made hymns in honor to Khandro Tsening Chodron. Chogyan Trungpa, for example, has a beautiful poem honoring her. There is also Sarasvati, the granddaughter of Tulshuk Lingpa, who also definitely radiates the qualities of a Dakini. And Jan Baker, in The Heart of the World, A Journey to Tibet's Lost Paradise, describes about another, he speaks about another such Beyul. I mentioned a little bit before, that book which has a foreword of Dalai Lama. So Sarasvati is the daughter of Chatrul Rinpoche, that great man who was so inspiring for Thomas Merton. And the man, Jan Baker, while he was in caves and meditating, he said, the image of Sarasvati came to me so many times. He doesn't speak about a subtle connection, but definitely, or this kind of inspiration, but definitely Sarasvati has such a power. For Tulshuk Lingpa, apart from the wife he had, also such Dakini, such incarnation of a Dakini manifested in his life. So in general, such Lingpas may have 2 consorts in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And at a certain point in his life, he started being visited by Dakinis. Sometimes 1, sometimes 2 would come, always with the head covered in beautiful, well-dressed well-dressed ladies will come and in a mysterious way bring revelations to him. They never show their faces, and they would go in the Tulshuk Lingpa's room and they would never come out. This is what his son would say. So the author, of course, was surprised and said, come on, how is this possible? No, they wouldn't disappear. And what? And the man said, yes, he's crazy, but that's how it was. They weren't really women. They were Khandros. They were Dakinis. And he explained that actually Tulshuk Lingpa would do a ritual before, specifically ritual Lung 10, and then he would enter a deep state of meditation, like a prophetic trance, and then he would have the intuition, now a Dakini will come, or 2 Dakinis will come. And then he would ask everybody to leave his room. And then he said, we would leave, but then we'll still look to see who is coming. So they could look at the door and watch. And he saw how such women will come, but they will never leave. And of course, the author said, well, but this is a way of saying that he was having women there, meeting women. Yes, the Kunsang said that the son of Tulshuk Lingpa said, yes, but still, we all could see how they enter, but never somebody could see one of them going out. We looked and looked, and nobody saw ever somebody going out from the room. After then, he would come with long texts, with prophecies and teachings and instructions coming from such Khandros. Apart from this, at a certain point, he spoke about human incarnation, such a Dakini which will manifest physically to be with him for opening that Beyul. So that he's saying that time such a Khandro will be with me. And he gave to, after this vision, he gave to his 2 main disciples. There were many disciples, but Namdron and Miphan seem to appear constantly. Actually, this Miphan, the author couldn't find, because him, in these times, as you remember, I saw that most of them who were in life were interviewed by the author, but Miphan was for many decades in isolation in caves. So you see, these people were not people with looking for reputation or wanting to have things fantastic to show something. They were people really dedicated to spiritual life. And these 2 disciples went to look and brought 2 women which will correspond with the description which Tulshuk Lingpa gave them. It was more on the side of her breast and 2 on her back and so on. And he rejected. Tulshuk Lingpa didn't feel that one of them was proper, but the other woman felt that she will be and that she is the Dakini. This Chimi Wangmo, Khandro Chimi Wangmo, of course, after 40 years or so from that story, this is the woman which was the channel for, or the supporting channel for Tulshuk Lingpa. It is still interesting because, again, things are not very clear like this and always very precise, or the destiny comes in so many ways. It was not so much she that was the main inspiration in the journey to the Beyul, but her sister, Yeshe, which this woman, with a tremendous compassion and devotion, in the story, she was the one who impressed the most the author through her presence. Maybe you remember there was a great astrologer and magician and with many powers, but the compassion and the depth of this woman and her dedication and faith was what shocked the author of this book. She would have many visions about different places and how the journey to open. Now, still before going further, I refer to a Tibetan story about how a Khandro or a physical Dakini can support a terton. This is an image of a terton opening a Beyul with the help of a Khandro. In the back you can see some tools for rituals which were done before. The story says that such a terton one day came with this vision, or one night had the revelation that he is the time to open, to go to discover a treasure, a Dharma treasure, a spiritual text. So he simply said to his partner, the Dakini, now is the time to go. Let's go. As a parenthesis, it is often insisted upon this thing that whenever a terton would say, now is time to go, you cannot contradict, and it's this kind of mystical madness. It's an intuition that the terton will follow, and they just, it's impossible to say no in this. So they simply went to a place they never seen before. It was just this calling to take a path to some places they never walked before. So actually, the way in which it is presented is to take such a spiritual treasure is to enter, to reach another dimension and to bring that piece of truth back. You remember I mentioned that such a terma, such a spiritual treasure is not the whole book. Sometimes it's just a piece of some words are there which will trigger the depth of the terton, and out of that hundreds of pages maybe, or a book would appear as a revelation coming from that. This is how the terma is revealed. But the calling was there, and he was following that with his Khandro, with his Dakini, beyond any trail into some faraway mountains where neither of them had been before. They had to climb some narrow cliffs and razor-like fissures, and then they came to a huge stone mountain, and after they ascended it, it was just abrupt ending, so like a chasm, so they couldn't go further. They could see from that river down, deep down, a river and a cascade and many little waterfalls, And then on the other part of the valley, there was a mountain even more impressive than this one, even more abrupt. And the Terton just looked, and far away, he just had that feeling, there is the Ter, there is the treasure. But how to get there? And the story says that the Khandro, this Dakini, senses the seed of doubt in Terton's mind even before it surfaces. She ran up behind him, yelling out, "Get the Ter," and pushed him off the cliff. So this is the role of a Dakini. Yes? No? She just pushed him, feeling that doubt. Even a Terton can have such doubts, or even before they arrive, the Dakini is there to support him with such a push. But there was, the story says, a huge vulture flying below them, and the Terton landed on it. It brought him to the other side, and he took out the Ter. So this is a legend about the discovery of such a Ter and the role of a Dakini. This beautiful, we can see this in a very symbolic way. So it's not just a nice woman or a nice person there, it's one that challenges you and pushes you in what would mean spiritual suicidal, or when you just dissolve your ego completely, and in the end the grace, of course, is there. No? What seemed to be just an abyss is just the totality embracing consciousness. So it was Yeshe, this woman who had many visions and a tremendous faith, and she was the one who supported. At that time, she had 18 years or so, old and so, or so. It's a story also in the book how she revealed, so how such visions functioned even for the physical realm, not only for subtle realms and so on. There is a story that a man, a very rich Indian man, came to Tulshuk Lingpa out of this desperation. All his money were stolen. He used to keep them in a safe, but that safe, the whole safe, was stolen from his house and then disappeared. He asked the police and so on, but nobody could find it. So he asked Tulshuk Lingpa to do a mo. You remember that divination with dices or even with malas can be done. And Tulshuk Lingpa said, no, it's not for such a divination with mo. It's for another kind of ritual that it's needed. It's about what is named Tratamelong, practice in which the Dakini would look into a concave mirror, brass mirror. So it's a mirror, concave, and then the woman would look into it. This kind of mirrors or tools or crystal ball or so are used by clairvoyants, or used for inducing these capacities. Even in parapsychology they are used. So it's a perception of the physical, but then something starts opening, like a way of reflecting the collective unconscious, we can say. And then they call for Yeshe, and Yeshe went and started looking in that mirror, and some images appeared there. She saw the thieves who couldn't take the safe, and then they called some other people. There were 8 people who brought it to a valley, but then the image changed and the sunset was, it was getting late, so they got worried. So they put just some stones and some branches of trees and to hide it, and they ran away. So now the question was where that kind of place would be. But the way in which she described, the owner realized that it was not so far away, so they went there and they found the safe. The author said, frankly, I didn't believe it. Later, others independently recalled the story with an uncanny accuracy in detail. So again, a kind of miracle that happened there. Now, the Dakini is a partner which brings such inspiration for such kind of, let's say, operations, but is also what triggers spiritual energies or allows us to have intensity of the energy. For example, in the yoga of the inner fire, a Dakini is evoked for amplifying the sexual energy and the bliss that appears to that. So in Tumo, and I promise in module 9 we will have the method for Kundalini awakening using the Tumo, the whole Tumo method. In the 6th yoga of Naropa, about the yoga of the inner fire, it is a description how this bliss can be amplified by visualizing a Dakini. So you bring through pranayama and through visualization the energy in the what they name secret chakras, Svatisthana chakra, and then the energy builds up and you start feeling that bliss that after that is directed through the whole nadis of our being, and then is directed to Sushumna, and then from there the energy drips and brings ecstasy more and so on. But they say if that energy of bliss doesn't yet appear, then one may apply the wisdom mother mudra, so the gesture of the wisdom mother name, by visualizing the sexual act with a Dakini while using the breathing to incite the Tumo heat. So this fire to melt the white seed, the bindu or tigle, and so forth. So it's a description of how the energy can be sublimated through Sushumna Nadi. Only on the occasion of increasing bliss should the chakra of great bliss, Svatisthana, be added and the wisdom mother mudra applied. There also they make the difference between the bliss of the fire and bindu melted, which is generated by such an evocation of Dakini in love making, versus the bliss of the prana entering and dissolving the Sushumna Nadi. So it's basically that is the ultimate bliss of union. Speaking about the 6 yoga of Naropa, the whole tradition actually started in this. This is very much in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition a specific sect, Kagyu lineage, and the whole lineage starts from a great yogi master, Tilopa, and all these teachings were actually revealed to him also in a dream by a Dakini, and how all that knowledge came by him embracing the Dakini and making love with the Dakini. So that is how the whole teachings of the Kagyu lineage and this yogas of Naropa. Naropa was actually the disciple of Tilopa, of this great master. He got all these initiations by a union, through a union with Dakini. Now, this practice is in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition named the union, which in itself is named mudra. Mudra, means in general gesture, but in Vajrayana sexual yoga, the mudra refers to the female consort that helps the generation of spontaneous bliss and emptiness. These two poles, it is emptiness, referring to that dimension of void, of consciousness in which you transcend everything, but that is not something dry. Always the balance is that you bring the bliss. No? This is what is symbolized actually through the bell and the Vajra as the fundamental symbols of the tantric practitioners in Vajrayana. Bliss and emptiness. And the mudra as female consort arises on an outer, inner, and secret level. So you see, we speak about a partner or about such a lover, but it's this outer consort which manifests as a physical form of the goddess and Dakini. Then at the subtle level, so the second one, inner level, it's the inner consort. She manifests as Chandali. Chandali is the goddess of fire. This Tumo, or Chandali, in Sanskrit is Chandali, in Tibetan is this Tumo, the goddess of inner heat, located below the navel chakra. So all of us have this Chandali, which we awaken, and then it's an inner process of love making with Chandali, with this inner dimension of our being. But then at the secret level, which is the highest level, so this is still, let's say, at the energy level, yes, we open the energies, but then at the causal level, at the even higher level, there's a secret consort. She arises as the consummate union of the white and red bodhicitta, as the ultimate merging of bliss and emptiness, which is simply the expression of the consciousness of oneness. So the red and white bodhicitta, the drops, are the very expression of, let's say, the consciousness, the white bodhicitta, related very much with the head, and red bodhicitta, related to the vitality or Shakti. And actually, even in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, when these two are united and absorbed in the heart, then the clear light is revealed. So the union of them will reveal, it's the last stage of the transition or leaving the physical body, and then the union is there. So this expresses actually at the secret level this union. It's that union which happens between in you, between the most essential Shiva and Shakti, we can say. Union in union, this would be the ultimate meaning. There are many other descriptions. It's Garjen Kamtrun Rinpoche, Tibetan master who lived till quite recently, had a vision in which such a Dakini, after making or also preparatory practices, appeared to him and guide him. And at a certain point, again in a dream, it happened while he was in a cave, and at a certain point he entered the body of the Dakini, and then it was a lot of revelations happening inside of her related to inner spaces revealed in the place of a Dakini, in the Dakini, and then he was going out from the yoni from the sexual organ of the Dakini, and then he met Padma Shambhava, and then he was led to Shambhala. This man had all these visions. He noted and he wrote like 2 notebooks with all that vision. And when he went back to his monastery, because he was in a pilgrimage, he said about this, of course. And then it was, there were some prophecies. This happened before the Tibet was invaded by China. And he left because it was told to him in those visions to leave the Tibet before actually that happened. And of course, all those prophecies were there and people could confirm that. Now, another interesting, worth to be mentioned element is that there were attempts to open a Beyul before Tulshuk Lingpa. And if you remember, it was his master, his first master, the one who manifested those purbas there while Tulshuk Lingpa was just a child. And he said, I'm going to open Demonshong Beyul. So in 1920, so before the Chinese invasion and so on, in 1920, he went, this master went, Dorje Dechen Lingpa, so he was also a Terton, a treasure discovery, went to open the Beyul, this Beyul. He had also a calling for that. And he went together with 20 people. He went to Sikkim. There, the king didn't agree, or he wanted actually that his lamas to discover and, this kind of human tendencies. So Dorje Dechen Lingpa made it kind of in a secret way, together with his disciples. But his attempt failed because there were oppositions. He went to the headman of Risun, the last place before they would try to open this. Like in any archetypal hidden land, there are 4 gates or 4 ways of accessing, like in the heavenly kingdom. And he went to a path. He felt the calling, but then he was, as I said, together with 20 disciples. It was a night in which he told them, to all of them, to go inside the monastery, but because some lamas, disciples of him, preferred to sleep in tents. And everybody went except from one who was practicing chod, a very radical karma, bringing a lot of challenging practice, in which kind of deities are invoked to purify in a radical way the astral body. Basically, the astral body in a chod ritual is maybe the most radical practice in the Tibetan Buddhism, revealed by a reincarnation of Yeshe Tsogyal, also by a Dakini. A woman was one who revealed the chod practice. Basically, there you go to a cemetery or in a place where a person just died, and then meditating there, you invoke the Dakinis or entities to come and eat your, and then this feast would be a feast of the astral body. and then it's like all your troubles, traumas, or whatever are eaten by such sometimes even demonic deities. No? So imagine that all the psychic energies of your being in forms of different, in the form of, appearing as content there, are eaten by such entities, and then you are like eaten by all this. But then, of course, this astral body is regenerated in a complete pure way. This would be the chod, the essence of the chod practice. And this man remained in that night there, but a terrible storm came and he was killed together with, and some animals which were used by them in the journey. So that was a very bad omen, a very bad sign, and that made Dorje Dechen Lingpa to stop that journey. It is also a story said by Chantral Rinpoche about other reasons of that. It was because the Dakini of this man, his assistant actually fell in love with that, and they had just a human story, and thus the magic of all that, the power of that, all that was not so intense. But even for that, even in this story, it was a support that came, and then they understood you need a Dakini, and then again this search was there. Now, in these places, there is always, or any time when such a journey in the world, in everything, is happening, there are different levels of perception. So, related to that, there is a beautiful text of Pavo Orgyen Chongnon, the Guide to the Heart Center. Guide to the Heart Center, again, a symbolic journey to the essence, journey to Shambhala. And this place is, according to him, still preserved by some knowledge holders of the hidden land. So there are beings who know about that, and they perceive the mountains as tantric deities in ecstatic embrace with their consorts, representing the dynamic synergy of form and essence. Their alchemical passion gives rise to different peaceful and wrathful deities, freeing those who can perceive them from the blinders of conventional vision. The most fortunate beings will see Padmashambhava and deities directly. So going in such a place, you may have even such visions. Others will hear their voices. Ordinary beings will see only earth and rock. So this is again how things are happening. As I said many times, in solitude, you may hear voices. I remember in a retreat, in a 49-day retreat, every morning I would be woke up by the voice of a woman, a very beautiful voice with this kind of Buddhist resonance. Yes, and that was so much an inviting place, that place. It was a time when I did a retreat in another place where only after that I heard that the name of that valley was named the Bed Valley. So I stay in the Bed Valley and I meditate there, in that Bed Valley. And indeed, it was a very beautiful experience in the sense that there I could understand how somebody can get crazy. So, and this helped me to, and this don't dramatize, which we have in Hridaya, came in that, in that retreat, because I understood how easily you can go, and I understood even that, the Christian monks who speak about the fight with the devil all night long, it was, with all respect, very much about dramatizing this. I could see there were very intense states of bliss. So it was with ups and downs, the ecstasy and agony retreat. Some retreats, are very calm or blissful. This was before the huge shift that happened with the teachings of Ramana. At that time, I didn't necessarily focus on the teachings of Ramana. And I would meditate. There were different meditations. I remember one night it was meditating on angels, so evoking angels. And I could see the angels above, but then at the periphery, how that energy of the visualization will turn into demonic beings, and like threatening. And then I would just focus again to the angels and focus on the angel, and then all that. So just ignoring and focusing, and then hearing voices in the head saying, it will rain in 30 minutes, and in 30 minutes would rain, and then do this, and then I would do. But if I wouldn't do, like simple things there, go there or do, if I wouldn't do, so much anger, and I was wondering, maybe it's masters can have also wrathful aspects, but always I didn't just follow blindly. I keep that witness consciousness. And that's why I said that the witness is what is saving us. And this is the essential key. Especially the nights were very, very dramatic. Very dramatic. The most intense sexual dreams with thousands of beings from different places in Japan, and many, many completely weird things, and then entities of earth saying, this is our place, you should move from here. And it was a wall. I was just sleeping in the cave. There was a river, a lake through which I would go, a small one, and then I will stay kind of isolated inside the cave. But it was still a river, and when the water would come, when the rain would be in the night, the river would become bigger. So I would be just near the wall, having just a bed of leaves, and then from the wall, this being saying, "Go away from here. You are not supposed to be here," and so on. So, witnessing and just being present, and learning to somehow connect with this. In solitude, this is happening often. That's why, for example, especially in the Orthodox Christian tradition, where this tradition of being in solitude is quite strong, they would never recommend you to go in solitude. They say in solitude you get crazy. So only after many, many years of deep spiritual practice, then you'll go. And there was a great mystic, Cleopa, who used to say, in the city, in the world, you find devil in the form of different beings. When somebody is offering you a cigarette to smoke, or inviting you to drink, so it's like the devil tempting you, this way of making or presenting in a metaphorical way. But then he said, in solitude, you meet the devil in person. So it's not that, it's just in the form of a person tempting you to drink or to whatever. No? So yes, solitude can bring many such connections with subtle words, which living in the social world, it's somehow an insensitivity to that appears. But then this expresses very much how we can see the world in different ways and how we can open to these different levels of perceptions. Now, related to this, as a synchronicity, while this happened to Tulshuk Lingpa, great lamas and tertons gather together for asking that a person will reveal the Beyul. So lamas and tertons of Kham is a region of Tibet where a lot of fiery Tibetans, a lot of them died in the war with the Chinese. And Tulshuk Lingpa was from that area of Kham, gather secretly and perform the divination necessary to help them discover the next one to open Beyul Demonshong. So after that, what happened with Dorje Dechen Lingpa in 1920 and that failure, they were starting asking and invoking. And again, Yeshe Tsogyal revealed to them and told them about such a person who will come and will appear. And she gave them 5 attributes by which the one to open the Beyul Demonshong could be recognized. And these 5 were, he will be discovered in the Western Himalayas, but is originally from Kham, from this area. He has to be tall, have long braided hair, has eyes like a tiger, and that is a Mionpa, or a kind of crazy person. No? And there were such lamas who were there, high lamas or priests, who were in this gathering. And they made a kind of all this description of with the attributes of them, which of the person who is going to open the Beyul, which became like a wanted person. You know? We want this person is the person which is required, and we are looking for it. And there were hundreds of hand-lettered copies with this description of the revelation of Yeshe Tsogyal. So this text, Pecha, Pecha means spiritual text, again, or a revelation, yes, a revelation coming from Yeshe Tsogyal. And they distributed this to lamas from the Kham region. Now, one of these lamas who was a part of that gathering when they evoke Yeshe Tsogyal, Zurmang Gelong, was very dedicated in finding the future Terton to open the Beyul, and went to look for him. But we should remember the situation of the Tibetans in that time. His journey was caught in this survival mode. He was just caught by the need for food and so on, and ended in sheer exhaustion, working on the road, cracking roads for the construction of a new road in Kulu Valley. So exactly as the legendary heroes of mythology who start, but then they forget and they are taken by different things. This man also kind of was lost in and stuck in that situation. But while working there, he heard about such a Lama, a very special Lama, and some miracles about Tulshuk Lingpa. And when he heard that he's from Kham, he decided to go to him. Again, Tulshuk Lingpa lived in a cave with his wife and so on. So he went to that steep area where the Tulshuk Lingpa was living. The son of Tulshuk Lingpa was there, so Kunsang. So we have a first-hand account of that meeting. When this man came, he started speaking about the Beyul, which was uncommon for the son, for Kunsang, because usually it was always his father speaking to others about the Beyul. Now it was this Lama, and his father was very quiet, just listening to what this man was speaking about the Beyul emotion. Then his father, in a very casual way, he said that, well, actually I also had a vision of Yeshe Tsogyal. When that was mentioned, the man was simply electrified and shocked. Then he mentioned about the 5 attributes, and Kunsang, the son of Tulshuk Lingpa, so that how you could check all the attributes there, that indeed they were meeting in that western part of the Himalaya. Tulshuk Lingpa was from Kham. He had that fiery eyes. He was tall, the hair as it was. But then the only detail that he is crazy, that also could easily be accepted when he realized that he's just living in a cave with all his family and in that cliff there. So after that, Zurmang Gelong, this man, asked if he heard about Dorje Denchen Lingpa, the one who tried, the Terton who tried before to open this Beyul. And then to this, Tulshuk Lingpa responded, of course, I knew him as a child. He is the one who coronated me and gave me my name. No? The one who made also those purbas to be revealed. So it was the direct connection, and it was the one who recognized Tulshuk Lingpa. When that happened, the man was really, really in awe, and then he brought that pecha, that sacred text, the revelation of Yeshe Tsogyal, and then started reading about the attributes, but also about the description of the Beyul, how it is the Beyul and how it is there. When that man started this, Tulshuk Lingpa went to a place in his cave, and he took a text, which was the revelation of Yeshe Tsogyal, which he had, and then he said, he unwrapped it and read the same lines word by word, dictated to him by Yeshe Tsogyal during his vision of her. Zurmang Gelong pressed the pecha, the sacred text, on his forehead, and with tears streaming down his cheeks, said, when you go to Beyul, you must take me with you. I have been praying for this for so long. It has been my dream. But again and again, this affirmation came, the time is not right. we must do more pujas, we may purify and be ready. Not one doubt can enter our minds, he said. Then we should be ready. There are 3 traditional guidebooks to Shambhala, now referring again to the traditional way in which Shambhala is in the Tibetan culture. We have many contacts from the Westerners, so the Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky, Annie Besant, Paul Sinet, and Roerich, and many, Santiv Dalvedro, and so on. But in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, there are maybe 3 or 4. One, the most ancient, is an anonymous one, but apart from that, there are 3 classical texts. Kalapar Jugpa, the entrance to Kalapa. You remember Kalapa is the capital of Shambhala, so the entrance to that core of Shambhala, the very symbol of the heart, the palace of the king of Shambhala. This text is from Tengyur, so the commentary section of the Tibetan canon, and I already gave a little bit of a quote about the need to do this for the benefit of all human beings, to have that pure nature and so on. Then there is also Shambhala Lam Ing, the description of the way to Shambhala, written by the 3rd Panchen Lama in the 18th century. Panchen Lama is a very special Lama. Actually, in our time, it became a mess because the Chinese took this. It was found, revealed, the new incarnation, this Tulkus, was revealed by Dalai Lama, but then the Chinese stole him, and nobody knows since 30 years or so about this person. But they came with another Panchen Lama, so now everything. The problem is that the next Panchen Lama chooses the Dalai Lama, and Dalai Lama chooses Panchen Lama. This is the way in which the revelations chooses. It's again about this revelation. But Panchen Lama is considered the main authority in connection with Shambhala, because Panchen Lama has this authority related to the kingdom, and the legend said that an early incarnation of him, Manjushri Kirti, was the king who unified all the different tendencies in Shambhala kingdom, and then the last king who will fight against the decadence in the world, Rudra Chakrin, and will destroy the forces of the evil, will be also the same soul, or the same bodhisattva, this soul of Panchen Lama. So Panchen Lama has a very special connection with Shambhala. And then apart from this, Rigpa Zinpai Ponya, the knowledge-bearing messenger, a long, beautiful poem composed in the form of a letter by Rinpung Ngwal Jigdang, a 16th century Tibetan prince, in which he said that his father went to Shambhala, and then he's trying to find a way to reach Shambhala. And then he describes this journey in a very beautiful way. We will let all this we'll refer to that in a very brief way, referring to the subtle meanings as well. Some you'll see this journey as a journey through the chakras. Of course, since the chakras refer to all the dimensions of our being, interpreting the journey to Beyul or to Shambhala as a journey of opening the chakras makes sense. because yes, it's about purification and transformation which happens in our being. But this would be still a limiting interpretation, which means all of them are correct, but all of them are just coming together in this mystery of existence and the beauty of life. So we'll open to the question and answers now. We'll stop for now, and because the retreat, the 17-day retreat will come, and then different other activities, we will stop for a while the satsangs for about Shambhala, but I feel that it's good to continue to keep this longing and aspiration for Shambhala in our heart. Yes, we started yesterday these meditations for the peace of the world. Those who are online and don't know, please contact us, and we'll. There is actually a link to this tapas for an invocation of Tara, and basically this invocation of Tara is exactly like the preparations they would do for having revelations related to a deeper connection with this realm of bodhisattvas, or like a deeper guidance to this. Yes. What is the name of the Sufi text that you mentioned? The Conference of the Birds, in which they are, it's also a metaphor of these birds who are going to Simurg, which is actually like Shambhala, but actually they realize that all these birds, some drop, and then just those who remain, actually, it's the essence of them. It's actually that was always already the realm they are hidden, that is hidden inside them. So the Conference of Birds is the name of this beautiful text. In the beginning, you described the Turiya state like the simple transition state between vigil and sleep. That would mean that everyone has it even for a few minutes daily. Is that right? Not completely right, because as you saw, there are different levels of perception. Yes, there we can say there is a gateway there, exactly as the transition from leaving the physical body and all this bardo going, or the soul traveling, and then it's the chance to access the clear light. So when you drop the physical body, according to the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, you can access that ultimate freedom. It's a possibility, but it's not happening for everybody. In a similar way, that transition period between wakefulness and sleep, the hypnagogic state, this is named so-called hypnagogic state, and then the opposite one from sleep to wakefulness, hypnopompic state, both these states are giving us the chance to access that awareness. But Turiya is not just our sleepiness, or Turiya is a conscious condition. So it's not about the moment, it's about a state of consciousness. It's about the quality of a consciousness which is not taken just by personal worries, all the worries we have during the day. When you enter sleep, it's that fluidity, it's just that freedom, no? But then it's not, you are not conscious. But when we have that fluidity of and freedom of being, together with a sense of full awareness, that would be Turiya. Yes? A while ago, I heard in my sleep the Om Padma Shambhava Hum mantra. How can I know if it was an invention of the mind or a valid mantra? Indeed, you cannot decide just taking an event out of context. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and it makes sense in Yoga Nidra, in Yoga of Conscious Sleep, it's the same. We can have common dreams, they would name samsaric dreams, dreams just unaccessing the common subconscious personal domain of ours. Such samsaric dreams are of no relevance for the Tibetan Buddhists. So it's not like in our psychoanalysis, when we look and try to understand what is that black dog there and in my dream and so on, are completely irrelevant. But then there are dreams of clarity in which, as Jung would name, an access in the collective unconscious. That is a space in which you are not just in your own kind of separate personal subconscious, but a connection with a wider field is happening. And there, indeed, revelations and initiations and such visions are happening. So in this different kind of dream, there is another one, but I'm not going to speak about that clear light dreams, in which you are just the witness. You realize that everything is happening in you. You are the dreamer of all that, not just a character. But this second quality, this second kind of dreams, dreams of clarity, are such dreams in which we can receive initiations or we can receive messages. This usually happens when there is a connection. Either it's a calling or somehow a constant, it's somehow that through our aspiration, for example, if you meditate and meditate with Shambhala or repeat the mantras, in this tapas we have with Tara, repeat the mantras, then sometimes it happens that it's such a deep echo in our being, and it's just this Om Mani Padme Hum. With just this, you can enter Samadhi. That mani, I would say, that jewel in the lotus is the lotus, but then Om Mani Padme Hum. No, that jewel. With that, you can enter a state of Samadhi. That jewel. So, and then there is like no time, or there is, after such experiences, somehow the conscious mind becomes impregnated, so impregnated with these subtle realms and with this trust that the collective unconscious somehow opens. So it's like this journey, and we will speak later in the next satsang. Basically, the realm of Shambhala is having at the periphery very high snow mountains. Those mountains are like a border between conscious and unconscious, or supraconscious. And basically, this is why even you'll see in the Tengyur and in these classical texts about Shambhala, they say don't go into further exploration unless a vision will come to you in sleep, which shows that your conscious mind is preparing the conditions of something deeper to be revealed there. So it's like I was thinking, I was longing with my conscious mind. Still, it's a tiny level of my being. But then, because of that, Padmashambhava, or a revelation, is coming. And then it may have different echoes. Or it was somebody who told me some weeks ago, I have a dream about green Tara. And then I ordered a statue on Amazon with green Tara. And she came exactly when our tapas started. At that time, she didn't know about the tapas. At that time, she didn't have that. It was just a dream, but then it echoed, and then it was that kind of coincidence. And for some, it may have no meaning, but for the one who experiences this, it's such a grace. It has such a meaning, a devotional meaning, not a rational meaning, we can say. So the same is with this. No, it can come, and then just allow that. You can repeat that mantra and see what is happening, definitely. But doubt is already something that doesn't support such a depth. So trust more and repeat that, and open more to that reality. Yes. So it can be very possible that was an authentic understanding. I read Pundarika Upanishad on the internet, and it states that Ida and Pingala are ending in the neck. The Tibetan yoga, the Tibetan, please write his yoga and dream yoga, they get united in ajna in the nostrils, since duality proceeds until energy reaches anya, and including anya. Is the Pundarika teaching right also? Well, there are many kind of models and ways of referring. Definitely, traditionally, Ida in Pingala are not ending in the neck. Yes, there is related to the neck kind of blockage or a important stage. It's so named Lambika or Raja Danta, the royal tooth, which is in connection with the glottis. And for example, in module 7, we speak about the importance of it in Kundalini awakening and how that meditation there can generate Kundalini awakening, but it's not that it's ending there. Can the meditation and intense visualization on the Shambhala Yantra stimulates inspiration and creative artistic visualization, or can there be an interference between these two mental states. So can the meditation and intense visualization of the Shambhala Yantra stimulate inspiration and creative artistic visualization, or there can be an interference between these two mental states? As I try to clarify, definitely this openness to Shambhala Yantra can bring many revelations and many inspirations. So trust, and you'll see that a lot of things are coming. And as I said, don't take it just, two mental states, or many things are happening behind this level of conscious mind. No? How that statue of green Tara appeared exactly now when this tapa started for the peace of the world, when that was something that was connected with a dream that, happened some weeks even before starting, or having the idea of starting this, even before starting the war in Ukraine and so on. So there are allowed to yourself to understand that there are dimensions deeper than your rational mind, and that very wonderment and acceptance there are such dimensions, and opening to them is the very spirit of Tantra. So this is very much Tantra. And what we will name reality is. Can you explain more the masculine and feminine roles of the Dakini? How can we apply these teachings to our daily practice? Well, exactly as we have in the Christian angelology all this reference, and not only the Christian, in Judaism, in Zohar and so many texts, this connection with angels and the connection with them, and what this can bring for us in terms of connection, and all this so-called white magic, the help of such deities, this can be applied just by opening. Start with this openness to Tara, for example, or to very simple or very easy to access or to open to spiritual realities, and then more and more nuances will start being revealed in your heart. And yes, you can evoke Yeshe Tsogyal. There are at least 3 books about the life of Yeshe Tsogyal. Some of them are also termas, revelations that came, and yes, the teachings of Padma Shambhava to Yeshe Tsogyal. So all these can be like a very subtle way of connecting, and then yes, so much inspiration can come. It's like a subtle presence, exactly as when you are in love and your lover, you are doing a lot of things, but the thought of your lover is always there, and you hold your lover, and it's a sense of freedom because of this communion and joy. The same is with these connections with the Dakinis and Dakas and the Dhyani Buddhas and the Dasha Mahavidyas and the Tantric tradition. All of them are just beautiful expressions of consciousness. We are going to speak more about this connection between the psyche and such expressions, and how an emotion can appear with a form. But later. Are there other questions? Yes?
You talked about Dakinis appearing as consorts and entering
Yes.
and then like the alpha between male and female. So did Dakinis appear in the same way to women as they were?
Yes, the question is if Dakinis are appearing in the same way to women. Yes, the connection between a woman and Dakini can as well happen. Of course, in a more, in a specific or in this context, more of an inspiration, I would say, or a calling to that specific. Maybe the word functionality is a little bit too technical, but is just based mostly on this capacity to open very much to these subtle realms. So while Tulshuk Lingpa, yes, had visions and had many insights, still it was a need to that feminine aspect to open. A woman can be inspired by the Dakini realm. No? Usually we have the tendency to say to a beautiful woman, she's a Dakini, or no, in the West we have this kind of thing. But the Dakini is definitely much more than a beautiful, nice woman. Dakini is a sky dancer, so it's one that transcends these limitations, and then as a woman you can be so much inspired by the presence of the Dakini and awaken this Dakini nature in your being, because it's very much about this as well. We can say that any woman has a Dakini or is a potential Dakini. No? But of course, awakening that wisdom and magic power is something that requires total transcendence of limitations. Basically, this wisdom, radical wisdom. So, yes. If there are no other questions, let's conclude with a short moment of invocation of the realm of Shambhala. Close your eyes. We bring the awareness in the heart. The openness to these deep levels of our being, to this sacredness. To Shambhala. And we can continue with the eyes closed, or we can open the eyes and look on the Shambhala Yantra. keeping this state of aspiration, trust in the heart. Okay. Open the eyes. With this we conclude.